All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to crack the code on one of the hottest stocks out there, NVDA. You see all those technical analysis reports, right? They're full of jargon and confusing charts. Well, we've got one, and together, we're going to break it all down, piece by piece, so it actually makes sense.
So what is the real story with NVIDIA's stock? I mean, is this thing about to soar to new heights, or is it just kind of running on fumes? To figure that out, we're going to put on our detective hats. We're going to look at the data like it's a crime scene and follow the clues to see where they lead.
Okay, so every good investigation has to start somewhere, right? We got to set the scene. So first things first, what are the basic facts of the case? Where is NVIDIA's stock right now?
So the big picture here is pretty clear. NVIDIA has been on this absolutely incredible run for a long time. It's been a monster. But lately, things have kind of cooled off a bit. The stock's in what the pros call a consolidation phase. Honestly, just think of it like the stock is taking a breather after a massive sprint. It needs to catch its breath.
And here it is, Exhibit A, our starting point. The last known price from the report we're looking at is $185.54. Now this number, it's super important. It's basically the anchor for our whole investigation. Every single clue we dig into is going to be measured against this exact price.
All right, the scene is officially set. Now for the fun part. Let's examine the evidence. We're going to look at a few key technical indicators. You can think of these as the fingerprints and the footprints that traders leave all over the charts. They tell a story.
Okay, our first piece of evidence is something called the moving average. And this is such a cool tool. Why? Because it cuts through all the daily static, all that up and down noise, and it shows us the real underlying trend. It's kind of like, instead of tracking every single footstep a suspect took, we're just drawing a line showing the general direction they were headed. Simple, right? So what's the story this data is telling us? Well, take a look. You can see the current price is just a little bit below its super short-term 5-day average. But look at the next lines. It's sitting comfortably above its 20-day average, and it's way, way above the big one, the 200-day average. So what does that tell us? It means that even with this little recent dip, the bigger picture, the medium and long-term trends, are still looking really strong and positive. All right, next up in our evidence locker is the RSI. That stands for Relative Strength Index. And the best way to think about this is like a momentum gauge for our investigation. It basically tells us if the stock's recent price moves have been just too fast, too furious, It helps us figure out if a stock might be overbought or if it's been unfairly punished and is now oversold.
And for NVIDIA, its RSI is sitting at 59.2. So you can see it's right there in that neutral zone. And this is a really important clue. It's telling us that even after that huge run it had, the stock isn't screaming overbought. It's not overextended. Instead, it's just undecided. The market is in this wait-and-see mode, which, is often what happens right before a big, decisive move.
Okay, let's just quickly gather a few more clues from the report. First, something called the MACD is positive. That's a good sign. Suggests there's still some bullish energy under the surface. But the trading volume is below average. That means there's no big frenzy, no strong push from either buyers or sellers. And finally, the ADX, which measures how strong the trend is low. So you put all that together, the picture we get is kind of bullish, but like a cautious bullish. Nobody's hitting the gas pedal just yet.
So now that we've gathered all our evidence, we can start to map out the actual battleground. We can see the lines being drawn in the sand. These are the key price levels where buyers and sellers are really digging in their heels, getting ready for a fight. And really, it all boils down to two simple ideas: support and resistance. Just think of support as the floor. It's a price level the stock just has a really hard time falling through. For NVIDIA, we've got a floor around 183 to 184 bucks, and an even stronger one down at 179.58. And then you've got resistance. That's the ceiling. It's the price the stock is struggling to break above. And the big ceiling everyone's watching right now? It's that recent high of 191.05. These numbers, these are the battle lines.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got a strong long-term trend, a neutral RSI that shows indecision, and we've identified those key battleground levels. Based on all of that evidence, our investigation is pointing towards two main scenarios for what could happen next.
So here are the two paths that analysts are watching. First, you've got the bullish breakout. This happens if the buyers win the fight and push the price above that 191.05 ceiling. A move like that could be the signal for the next big leg up. Then there's scenario 2, the bearish breakdown. This is if the sellers take control and push the price below that 179.58 floor. If that happens, we could see a much deeper price drop. Which way it breaks out of this range? Well, that's going to be the biggest clue we get. So after we've examined the scene, looked at all the evidence, and laid out the most likely scenarios, what's the final verdict? What does the analyst report conclude? Well, the final verdict is pretty clear. NVIDIA is basically at a crossroads. It's in this consolidation phase, just catching its breath after that huge uptrend. It's building up energy for its next big move. The analysis says traders should be watching for a breakout above that recent high or a breakdown below key support to get their next clue on where this thing is headed.
So the case isn't closed. Not at all. It's just been laid out for you. We've identified the evidence, and we've identified those critical battle lines, the floor and the ceiling. So now that you've seen all the clues, what will you be watching for? The breakout above the ceiling or the breakdown below the floor?